we're going to have extensive coverage of the Papal Conclave starting today. We'll have live reports both here on air and on Local 4+. But joining us again right now to talk more about the history of the Conclave and this centuries-old process of selecting a new pontiff, Professor James Naus from Oakland University.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
and I bring with me.
you.
I bring with me
The action figure.
the action figure.
Who knew there was ever an action figure of a pope?
There aren't many of them. He sits on my shelf, so I figured he doesn't have many occasions to get out. So
What's the history behind that?
Well, this guy is a pope who is relevant to our discussion today. This is Pope Innocent III. He was a medieval pope in the 13th century, but he overlapped with St. Francis, who of course Pope Francis took his name from, and there was a lot of tension between the two. So this guy was a institutional legal guy, and Pope Francis was a guy out among the people. So it sort of links up with perhaps the debates that the cardinals are having as we speak here.
Well, we have 133 cardinals
Yes.
that are going to be making this decision, and Jay Gray alluded to the fact that it's the most diverse group of cardinals ever to make this decision. What about when we talk about the diversity of the actual pope and their origins? It's never been an American, and many other countries as well.
Yeah, it's almost always been a European. I mean, in fact, Francis was considered groundbreaking by being Argentinian. Yeah, absolutely. So, he appointed 108 of the 133 who are going to be meeting today, and the thing that kind of holds all of those in common of what he appointed was people from the periphery. So a lot of people from countries that are less represented in the college. So certainly it's the most diverse geographically, ethnically, absolutely.
And I think a lot of people sometimes get caught up in the, is it a conservative or liberal type pope that's being elected? But when in most cases, they just most want to know, where do they plan to take the church? And considering that Pope Francis brought many of those cardinals to their post, fair to say that it'll be a pope, the next pope could be a lot like the last one? Yeah,
people like to ask what role Francis had in this. And obviously he has no direct one, but as I say, he appointed 108 of the people, so it's an indirect role. The conservative-liberal split, I think, is less helpful in framing it than perhaps asking what type of pope they want. Are they going to ask for somebody who's a legal scholar, who's a jurist, who writes a lot, or are they going to look for somebody like Francis, who we heard stories at his funeral, used to walk into the local coffee shop and eyeglass shop and a humble guy. But I think what holds them all in common is, as well, is a firm need to evangelize. You know, the church has lost numbers in recent years, and we've heard cardinals from all sort of backgrounds on their beliefs talking about the need to evangelize and grow the church.
One cardinal, Archbishop Tobin from Newark, is being considered. He's a Detroit native, grew up here.
He is.
Just one of many.
He is, yeah. I mean, so of the 133, there will be some that you can see they're sort of getting odds in Vegas already of who's going to be the next pope. They're usually 5 or 6. You can't gamble on anything. I would not put my own money on an American pope, but it could certainly happen. Actually, it doesn't have to be a cardinal. Any baptized Catholic male can be pope. So don't leave your day job quite yet if you are a Catholic baptized male, but it almost always is a cardinal. But I think probably not an American this time around, but who knows?
A long shot, but you never know. And we talked about it in our 6 o'clock hour, but it just fascinates me to hear about the history of the conclave and why they actually go in and sequester themselves and lock the doors from the outside world.
Yeah, I mean, so there are a number of reasons. One is to keep them away from outside influence. In fact, we've been told their phones and iPads have already been taken away from them. So they have no idea what's going on in the outside world. But it's also to try and force them into making a decision. So in the Middle Ages, the conclave started because of a particularly long one that went for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Wow.
And people were getting upset.
Sure.
And so they basically said, lock them away. In fact, the word conclave in Latin means with key. Lock them away and force them to make a decision. They've tried all sorts of things over the years. They've tried to cut down their food rations as they went too long, and they even removed the roof.
We're going to starve you.
Indeed. And they even removed the roof once to let it rain on the cardinals to force a decision. I don't think they'll do that in the Sistine Chapel because it would do some damage to the artwork. But
that's incredible.
But in recent history, it's not taken more than 5 days.
Yeah, absolutely not. 5 days was even somewhat distant at this point. I think 24 to 48 hours is a pretty reasonable guess at this point.
When we get that white smoke.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, James, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You have to get to work at Oakland University.
Absolutely. I feel like I need to go take a nap, but absolutely, yes.
Welcome to our schedule.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Great insight.
Thank you.
Love talking about it.